Dzogchen Today podcast. Welcome to Dzogchen Today's podcast. This series of Dzogchen in everyday life is designed for us to get more familiar with the Dzogchen view and what it can bring in our daily life through personal sharings and short practices.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for listening to us. In this episode of Dzogchen in Everyday Life, we will continue to talk about Dzogchen and the relief of emotions on a daily basis and explore this time the family of emotion of saturation, exhaustion, and burnout. So I'm very happy to welcome you to Mila, Khyentse.
Hello.
Hello, and Franck Armand.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for joining us. So Mila Khyentse, you are a trained scholar, consultant, and teacher of Dzogchen.
Mm-hmm.
You have been traditionally trained in the Himalayas and in Europe, and you are a lineage holder, which is a woman or man that are responsible for the living transmission of the great perfection teaching.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That's correct, okay. And Franck Armand, you support medical and corporate leaders with mind-focusing practices issued from the Asian world. And you're also a Feldenkrais practitioner and tea ceremony master trained in Japan. And all your activities tend to foster the quality of concentration and flexibility of the mind. That's correct?
Correct also.
Yes, also. Very
Wow.
good.
Everything
Perfect. Until now, we're fine, right?
Yeah, very good.
So today, we will continue to discuss this emotion families and this topic of saturation, exhaustion, and burnout. And so we can say today that in this ultra technological world where everything goes very fast, we flirt very much with saturation and exhaustion and even burnout. So to begin with, based on maybe your personal experience, Franck, could you enlighten us on this group of emotions and what they are, how they manifest themselves, and what impacts do they have on our lives, or in your life in this case?
Actually, I had two experiences in the past of, I would say, great saturation, close to burnout situations. The first one was during my studies. I did studies engineer, and during 6 years after baccalaureate, we say in French, I was studying intensively sciences, different fields of science, and really, in the end, after six years, the last year was really, really difficult for me. And in the end, I ended the month of June when it ended into a very bad situation where I had headaches all the time, aches also in the solar plexus, and difficulties of breathing and to release. I had also constant temperature very high, and I couldn't really do anything during the following months. So that was my first experience. And after that, actually, I had the chance to to continue my studies in Japan, where actually I did not do much at the beginning because of my state, but that was really a release for me to be there. The second one was 15 years later, and it was really more about emotions. It was a situation of divorce and also starting a new activity. I created a company, and all this together, family problems and and pressure, made me go to a situation where my body couldn't follow. And I ended in a hospital for quite a long time. Okay. And really, that was a release for me to be at the hospital, to feel protected.
And take care of.
Yeah, of course. That was really what helped me. I didn't have necessity to get drugs but really the fact of being protected was really important for me.
Yes. And so the first experience were more related to a saturation of cognitive process, right?
Yes.
And
well,
mental.
Too much solicitation of my thinking for really specific. It was science. It was not about my I would say my own life.
Yes,
it was just learning about learning.
Yes.
And
it was too intense.
It was really too much.
And the second one, you were saying that it was more related at that time about emotions, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But it both led to
a situation, I had to let go all that because my body and my mind couldn't follow up with this situation, and that was a break. So.
Yes.
So the result was a complete exhaustion.
What did you say?
The result was a complete exhaustion for the two experiences.
It was a stop.
Yes.
So
you could not function it anymore.
No. Functioning was stopped.
So maybe Mila can say, could you, give us an explanation? What would be the point of view of the Dzogchen tradition about what Franck just mentioned?
For the saturation, exhaustion, and burnout, actually, it's the same. You can say the same family emotional disorders, even if it's not a disorder. For the great perfection, everything is rooted to the complex situation between two really strong emotions. One from one side is the desire, the will to attain or obtain something, and on the other side, it's the difficulty you have with your strong negative sensations in the body and so on.
So two conflicting emotions that cannot...
Yes. And it's, moreover, it's the mix between these two that leads to a complete exhaustion of the entire system. So for the great perfection, the root is for sure ignorance. So you have at the base the ignorance systems that functions, and then from this ignorance, so it can be ignorance of the future, it can be ignorance of your own state, because whenever we are in this situation, nothing is clear. You do not know where you are exactly. You cannot see clearly what you are.
So when we say ignorance, we could say not conscious of?
Yes, and unconscious of, and also not be clear about whatever is happening inside us. What kind of emotions are there? What kind of thoughts also there are? And then this creates a pattern that lasts, and this rupture, this condition of rupture between desire and anger leads to a state that it becomes more and more empty. It means that this tension, this perpetual tension between desire and anger, or anger meaning negative emotions or negative feelings, then this rupture, this paradoxal situation is too much, and it's feeding on too much energy with our body
to sustain this system, actually, because
and then at one point, then the energy is completely exhausted. And we just collapse. And this is the burnout, actually. Everything ceases to function.
This is, Franck, maybe this is what you experience, right? About this state of collapsing and...
you can't go further. The habitual process is not available anymore. And actually, recently I had this, because of COVID situation, I have a kind of post-COVID symptoms, and it gave me some clues to more understand what happened, because I had some feelings back that were very similar to what I experienced for my first burnout, and this was the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic autonomous nervous systems, and the fact that actually in a burnout situation, physiologically, you try first to do, and your system understands that you have to stop doing, but actually you force the system to go on, and then when you decide that it's okay, you can relax, the relaxing system is not really available anymore. So you have kind of situation where you can't really relax when it's time for relaxing, and when it's time for activity, your activity is not really efficient anymore. So both are kind of in a very the more it goes, the more the situation is kind of paradoxical.
It's very deprecated.
So you never have the chance to restore your energy somehow, because you cannot rest, basically.
In that sense, I was very lucky because I had planned to continue my studies in Japan. So after several months in Europe, in this very bad state, I had the opportunity to go to Japan for doing studies. So the first years were really not really efficient anymore. But in any case, I was in a society where naturally people are oriented to calm and to space. They are not always in the thinking process like we are more in Europe and in Occidental countries. And so I had this experience, and also the practicing of the Zen, and oriented to the emptiness, the feeling of your own breathing. All this really was, that was just by chance, I would say. That was not my choice to do that. But the opportunities gave me a situation really perfect for recovering.
But that's very interesting, because the environment helps you in that way. To restore your...
The change of environment was really crucial, I think. And I was very lucky to have that opportunity at that time. When I think back, say, well, if I would have stayed in France in the same context, and I think this is really a problem for people who have burnout, is that they can't stay anymore in the same context. That can be for job, but also family context can contribute to keep the pressure and make the people keep in the same situation. And mentally also, there is a kind of, what I noticed is that in a burnout situation, all the basis for action, like the desire, the intention, and the will, it's just like the system that drives you to act and continue life. This is broken in terms of your thoughts and things like that. So it's really, at different levels, the system is kind of...
Yeah. So you were mentioning that in Japan you learned some practice somehow to train your mind a bit differently that helped you. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Actually, now I am using practices to help people, in particular in the medical world, to help people to get to cope with saturation that they undergo. So and I think the practices are really important for them to get back the feeling of space, and which is what I experienced when I went to Japan. that helped me a lot.
This space,
And
yes.
And actually, in Asian meditations, we really consider two aspects, which is the ability of a mind to go to the opening and space and mental calmness. Whereas there is another, like a breathing process, there is a second aspect of concentration, which is more about focusing. And people who are in burnout situation, all of them are really oriented to the focusing aspects of mental mind functioning so much that they lose the opening and the ability to be in this breathing process of mind. And I think it's really very helpful for people with in burnout situation or saturation situations to get back this space.
It's in the Great Perfection we talk a lot about over focusing, and over focusing is actually it's the main point that leads to this situation of burnout. So as you said, in the Dzogchen tradition there is also as for all the Asian meditation traditions this kind of double process, the normal or the balanced focused concentration and the open focus concentration. It's still focus, it's still concentration for both of them, but they are not the same concentration. And the twist, the thing you have to grasp at one point is that you have to balance both in a really natural way. The focus and the openness.
That's the most difficult part, right? In a very natural way, because
actually it's not difficult, but you need time to do that, because it's not something related to your will. It's something related to your experience, and only your experience can lead to this balance, this double focus balance.
And actually, to change this pattern of the mind that is used to focus, not extra focus, but this big over focus. Yeah, sorry, thank you.
And this point actually is one of the main points for our modern world, because there is a big emphasis point onto focusing. We learn how to focus onto one thing, or over focus onto one thing, but we never learn how to focus on the openness, on the space, on something that is great, is big, something that is just opened. So we have, and this is the first thing we have to start by. We have to again open up to this openness.
So that's a perfect switch to
should be
to the next step. So, Rinpoche, would you be able to give us a practice that could help us to learn that, to learn this
for sure.
openness?
There is one practice which is really interesting for this burnout process in the Great Perfection tradition. It's from a series of practices. There are 21 practices of the Semjin. It's called Semjin in the tradition. And it's the practice of we say in Tibetan, the Tigle Karpo, the white Tigle. And the Tigle is something that you just try to focus onto it. It's a light sphere, a really small light sphere that you try to imagine in front of yourself. So the beginning of the practice is to settle down somewhere, just to sit down on the ground if you want, or on a chair, whatever. But you need to be in a really quiet environment, in a really calm situation. And then you try to focus eyes open. So this one point, I really insist, do not close your eyes, because the main point is that you will have to fix one point right in front of you. And at the same time, whenever you are just ready, when you just focus in front of you on one point with your eyes, you just imagine that there is a really, really tiny, really small sphere of light, white light, and translucent, and it's a really small one, like we say, like a rice or a bean, sesame seeds, just in front of you, not too long, not too away from you, and then you just focus onto it, trying at the same time to just release your tensions, your body tensions. And try to just focus onto it, but without also any mental tension. Just imagine that in front of you there is this white sphere, and then slowly you see that this sphere is just going away from you. It's slowly just disappearing. Slowly, it's really the point here. You will have to imagine that step by step, this little sphere just disappear in the space, and at the same time, you can just raise a bit your eyes whenever the sphere is just going away. Then your eyes are going a bit up, not too much, but at one point there will just stop. They will just again fix the space, the openness, and then slowly this white sphere disappear into the space, and you just have to focus onto this space without any specific focus. But at that point, you started with a really focused concentration, and now the focus is onto the space. So it's a space focus concentration. And this exercise, you just have to do it if you can. If you, for example, if you are in a burnout situation, you can do it just 5 to 10 minutes a day, and that's fine. In the morning, it's better.
Okay. Yeah.
And you should just do this exercise really I really insist again, in a really quiet situation, quiet conditions, and in a really peaceful state as well of mind. So you have to be really relaxed. So the starting point is really important, to be relaxed. So this is a really simple one, 5 to 10 minutes a day, and that's it. It's really simple. And slowly, what you will see also is that you will unfocus from a specific object. So you will see that your attention you put onto all the objects just release on its own.
Will fade.
Yeah, will fade away. And then you will be able to again regain a feeling of openness, not being completely grasped by everything.
And flexibility, right, of the mind.
Exactly.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this
You're
practice.
welcome.
And Franck, Armand, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us today. Thank you.
Very nice too.
Yes, and for our listeners, we encourage you to practice as much as you can, if you feel concerned. And stay tuned for the next episode. We will continue talking about these emotion families. And if you have any commentary or feedback, don't hesitate to write to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can find more episodes on your website, dzogchentoday.org. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast app and share it with your friends. We will be pleased to receive your feedbacks on podcast@dzogchentoday.org.